Before we start the video, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the notification bell so you can get all our latest updates. The series begins with a random gang that's stolen a truck full of money, and they're trying to make a getaway. They're driving so recklessly that they nearly run over two kids walking in the street. Luckily, before disaster strikes, a super strong heroine named Maeve arrives on the scene and stands in front of their car, completely wrecking it. But the thieves themselves don't get hurt. Right away, they grab the kids and threaten to kill them if Maeve doesn't let them go. Before they even finish talking, another superhero named Homelander shows up. Homelander is extremely powerful, and he shoots lasers out of his eyes like Superman, taking out the two thieves in an instant. And that's the end of the night. At that moment, everyone in the street starts cheering and taking pictures with Maeve and Homelander. That's how we learn that Maeve and Homelander are superheroes whose mission is to protect the world from villains and danger. By the way, both of them are on a superhero team called the Seven. Remember that for later. Now we jump over to Huey. Huey is just a regular guy who works in an electronics store. Right now, Huey's at work, going about his day like usual, when his fiancée Robin shows up. We find out Huey loves Robin deeply and plans to marry her soon. They step out for a walk together, but unfortunately they don't get the chance to do that. While they're standing and talking, a person with insane super speed comes out of nowhere and slams right into Robin. The impact is so intense it practically disintegrates her, leaving only the hand that Huey was holding. That's when we see the person who hit Robin. It's A-Train, another member of the Seven. A-Train's power is super speed, so crazy that he didn't even see Robin. A-Train tries telling Huey it was an accident and that he was in a hurry. Then, with shocking indifference, he leaves Huey in disbelief and just walks off, like nothing happened. A few days later, we see Huey at home with his dad, and it turns out they just got back from Robin's funeral. Obviously, Huey is overwhelmed with grief and sadness. On top of all that, while Huey is sitting with his dad, he sees A-Train on the news. A-Train claims he was rushing to stop a bank robbery and didn't notice Robin in front of him, which is how she died. A-Train also starts twisting the story, saying Robin was at fault because she was standing in the middle of the road and he couldn't dodge her. Of course, it's all lies, and it infuriates Huey. A bit later, a lawyer named Friedman shows up at Huey's place. Friedman works for Vought, the company that sponsors the Seven and many other superheroes, because in this world, there are loads of them. Anyway, Friedman offers Huey $45,000 in exchange for never speaking about Robin or what happened to her again. Huey realizes they're trying to pay him off, to silence him so he can't seek justice for his fiancée. He's furious, but being a timid guy, he only says he'll think about it and sends Friedman away. Later, Huey is back at work when this random guy shows up in the store. He takes Huey aside for a chat, introducing himself as Billy Butcher, claiming he's a federal agent. Butcher tells Huey he knows what happened to Robin and that A-Train killed her simply out of carelessness. He also says the Seven have taken innocent lives before. This isn't the first time, and that Vought either pays off or eliminates anyone who talks to keep their superheroes' dirty secrets hidden. Butcher says he wants to help Huey get justice for Robin. At first, Huey is terrified because he doesn't want trouble with the Seven, and also he's not exactly brave. But Butcher just asks him to come along to a certain place, and then he can decide if he wants to help. So Huey agrees, and Butcher takes him to a secret casino. This casino is hidden from the government's eye. All the superheroes come here to do shady stuff they can't be seen doing in public, so their image remains spotless. Butcher leads Huey to the surveillance room and shows him footage of A-Train with a friend hanging out in the casino. In this video, A-Train is basically cracking jokes about accidentally killing Robin. That really pushes Huey over the edge. So he decides to help Butcher. Butcher is happy and explains he wants Huey to contact the Seven's people and agree to sign the hush money deal they offered, but do it in the Seven's own tower. The idea is for A-Train to be there so he can personally apologize for killing Robin. Butcher tells Huey that's just a cover story. Once he's inside the tower, he needs to plant a bug so Butcher can spy on the Seven, especially A-Train, because A-Train's story was he was racing to save a bank from a robbery that day, but in truth, he wasn't rescuing anyone. He was in a hurry for a different reason. If they manage to record A-Train and the rest talking, they'll figure out what A-Train was actually doing that day and prove he lied about Robin. That way, they can get him locked up. As soon as Huey hears what Butcher wants, he panics and tries to back out. He leaves Butcher without a word and walks away. Now we cut to a girl named Starlight. We see her training hard at home. She has a superpower that lets her control electrical currents, and her dream is to join Vaught's heroes, especially the Seven. Today, after finishing her training, Starlight heads to Vaught's offices to audition for a spot on the team. We can see she's different from the other terrible heroes we've seen so far. She truly wants to save the world. When Starlight finishes, they tell her they'll be in touch. She feels discouraged, thinking she failed, and goes home. But the next day, she gets a call from Vought, telling her she's been accepted as a member of the Seven. Overjoyed, she and her mom celebrate, since this has been their dream for ages. Right away, Starlight goes to a big press event they're throwing for her. There, she's introduced by the Deep, a member of the Seven whose powers are ocean-related, kind of like Aquaman. He presents Starlight, and everything seems great. Then he takes her to the team's conference room in their tower. Starlight is thrilled and can't believe she's one of them. But her fairy tale comes crashing down when the Deep bluntly demands a sexual favor from her in secret. Shocked, Starlight refuses. He reminds her he's the most important person on the team after Homelander, and if she doesn't give him what he wants, he'll get her kicked off the team or worse. He might kill her and trash her reputation in front of the world. With no choice and completely cornered, Starlight goes along with it. What happens to Starlight is basically sexual assault. Naturally, she's devastated afterward and leaves the tower, sitting by herself while she calls her mom. In that moment, she's about to tell her mom she wants to quit because they're horrible people. But when she hears how happy her mom is that she's joined the Seven, she can't bring herself to say anything and ends the call. She's left crying by herself. By coincidence, Huey is sitting nearby. Of course, he doesn't know who she is. But he encourages her and tries to cheer her up without knowing what exactly is going on. Starlight appreciates that and thanks him. His words actually help her a bit, so she pulls herself together and heads to her first meeting with the Seven. That's when we meet the entire team. First, the group is led by Homelander, as mentioned before. In addition to him, the team includes A-Train, Maeve, the Deep, a hero called Black Noir, who's extremely strong, and another hero called Translucent, who can turn invisible. Finally, the newest member is Starlight. Starlight joins their meeting, officially becoming one of the Seven. Meanwhile, Huey goes back to Butcher and tells him he's in. Butcher is thrilled. Huey immediately calls Friedman to say he's accepting the offer, but on one condition. He has to sign the paperwork at the Seven's tower and have A-Train apologize to him in person. Friedman agrees. The next day, Butcher drives Huey to the Seven's tower. Huey heads up and waits for A-Train, who finally arrives, apologizes really quickly, then leaves. Afterward, Huey sits down with Friedman to sign the settlement papers, but before he does, he says he needs to use the restroom. Inside, he pulls out the bug he's supposed to plant. He's getting ready to place it somewhere quickly, but he accidentally drops it. He picks it up and walks out like nothing happened, unaware that Translucent was in there, invisible, and saw everything. Huey returns to the room, signs the papers, and sneaks the device under a table in the office before leaving to meet Butcher. Butcher praises him for what he did and drives him back to the electronics store, then leaves. The problem is, not long after that, Translucent shows up at Huey's workplace while still invisible. He corners Huey, demanding to know who he is and why he planted the bug. Every time Huey tries to deny it, Translucent smacks him around with incredible force. Luckily, Butcher crashes his car right into Translucent, then gets out and starts fighting him. But Translucent is invisible, so he quickly overpowers Butcher, until Huey gets the idea to grab a live electrical cable and electrocute Translucent, knocking him out. Immediately, Butcher tells Huey to help him hide Translucent's body in his car before anyone else finds out. Huey is confused and protests, saying, "Aren't you a federal agent? Can't you just report this and have the feds believe you?" But Butcher stuns Huey by revealing he isn't actually a federal agent. He demands Huey help him right away, or they're both done for. Huey, terrified and clueless, agrees. On the other side, we see Madeline, the CEO of Vought, meeting with the mayor of Baltimore, Steve. She offers to assign a superhero named the Nubian Prince to protect his city, in exchange for an annual payment of $300 million. Steve laughs and says he wants the Nubian Prince for only $200 million a year, or else he'll expose something called Compound V that the company is using. Madeline gets flustered because Compound 5 seems like a big problem, but she denies it and refuses to lower the price. Steve tells her to think it over, or else he'll go public with Compound 5, then walks out. Later, we see Steve and his son on a plane back to Baltimore, but they never make it. Homelander appears in midair and uses his laser vision on the plane, causing it to crash. We find out Homelander did this to silence Steve forever about Compound 5. Butcher and Huey drive away with Translucent's body in Butcher's car, trying to figure out what to do next. While they're on the road, Huey asks Butcher who he really is if he's not with the FBI. Butcher tells him he's more like a private investigator who works on secret cases, sometimes hired by the feds themselves. Suddenly, they hear Translucent's voice coming from the trunk. They realize he's not actually dead. Huey is relieved, thinking that means they haven't committed murder. But Butcher tells him they have to finish Translucent off, because if they don't, Translucent and the Seven will come after them. Problem is, Butcher doesn't know how to kill him, because Translucent's skin is made of carbon fiber and is practically indestructible. They go see an old buddy of Butcher's named Frenchie for help. Frenchie takes Butcher, Hughie, and the still alive Translucent to a secret hideout he owns, locking Translucent in a metal cage he can't escape from. They start trying different ways to kill him, but fail. Butcher tells them he's heading out and will be back with a real solution. After a while, Butcher arrives at the home of a friend named Susan. We learn Susan is the deputy director of the CIA, and there used to be some history between her and Butcher, but they drifted apart. Now, Butcher wants her to hand over Translucent's file so he can find his weakness and finish him off. Susan refuses, saying it'll cause chaos at the agency, and kicks him out. Butcher leaves disappointed and goes back to Frenchie and Huey. Eventually, Frenchie figures out how to kill Translucent by planting a tiny bomb inside him. We won't specify exactly where. Right before they're about to blow him up, Butcher arrives and asks Translucent where A-Train was coming from and where he was headed the day he killed Robin. Why was he in such a hurry? Frightened, Translucent admits he only knows A-Train was at his girlfriend Popclaw's place that day, but he has no idea where A-Train went after that. Translucent says Popclaw might know everything. Butcher gets the info he wanted, deciding to kill Translucent later. Meanwhile, Homelander meets Madeline, who's upset he killed the mayor and his son without her authorization. She scolds him and tells him not to do something like that behind her back again. Homelander, annoyed, asks how she even found out he destroyed Steve's plane. Madeline says the Deep went out to the crash site, found the plane in the water, and noticed signs of laser damage. Homelander is furious and goes to see the Deep. He quietly threatens to deal with him if he ever snitches to Madeline again. The Deep gets the message and apologizes. That same night, the Deep heads off on a mission with Starlight. They're supposed to stop smugglers on a boat. Before they start, the Deep tries talking to Starlight, but she's done with him after what he put her through. She warns him that if he tries anything with her again, she'll end him. Terrified, he backs off. They easily take down the smugglers, which is all fine, until Ashley, Madeline's assistant, arrives with a camera crew ready to film everything for more PR. Starlight hates that. She feels less like a real hero and more like some kind of TV star playing a role. Meanwhile, Madeline is hosting an event at Vought, where a very important senator is in attendance. She tries convincing him to support Homelander and the Seven officially joining the National Defense, making them part of the military, but the senator refuses. Madeline plays it cool and walks off. The next day, she summons that senator and blackmails him with some compromising photos she has, forcing him to support them. Back to Starlight. She's on her way to the tower and sees two men harassing a girl. She intervenes, beats them up, and rescues the girl. She arrives at the Seven's tower, heads to the restroom, but then Ashley confronts her, furious that Starlight attacked those men. The cameras only caught footage of her beating the men, not the harassment. Now Starlight's identity might be exposed and her reputation could suffer. Ashley warns her that if she does anything like that again, she could be kicked out. Starlight, furious, simply goes along with it. Back to Homelander. He notices Translucent is missing. He finds a Vought employee named Annika and tells her to trace Translucent's movements. She agrees to share whatever she can find. Homelander immediately goes out to rescue him. Meanwhile, Butcher and company are all set to blow Translucent up, but Frenchie suddenly stops him and points out that Homelander is closing in on their location. If they detonate a bomb now, he'll probably hear it from far away. They panic, and Frenchie calls an old friend, asking her to do something to divert Homelander. Unfortunately, right then, Homelander shows up and questions Frenchie about Translucent's whereabouts. During the conversation, Frenchie's friend sets off an explosion in a nearby building. Homelander hears it and rushes off to see what happened, leaving Frenchie unexposed. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief that Homelander didn't catch them. Translucent manages to break out of his cell and confronts Huey, who threatens to blow him up if he doesn't go back inside. Translucent doesn't take him seriously. Huey immediately hits the detonator, and Translucent literally explodes into pieces. After that, our group scrambles to clean up the bloody mess. They gather what's left of Translucent's remains into a box, which Butcher takes away to dispose of. Meanwhile, Huey and Frenchie go to Huey's place so he can pack some clothes and necessities, since he's planning to hide out with Butcher and Frenchie until all this is over. We cut to Butcher meeting up with an old friend named MM, short for Mother's Milk. From their conversation, we learn MM, Butcher, and Frenchie used to work together under someone named Mallory, who died under mysterious circumstances. After Mallory's death, they all went their separate ways. Now Butcher tells MM he killed Translucent and needs help taking down the Seven like they used to do back in the day. MM hesitantly agrees, but only if Frenchie isn't part of this, since they've had long-standing issues. Butcher lies, saying he hasn't seen Frenchie in years. MM is relieved and sets off with him. Soon, they're parked in a car outside Popclaw's place, keeping an eye on her. Just then, Frenchie and Huey show up, and the minute MM sees Frenchie, he attacks him. Turns out MM blames Frenchie for Mallory's death, but Butcher breaks them up, and things calm down. They start observing Popclaw's apartment and see her arrive home. They decide to sneak in at night and bug the place. Huey, however, has another idea. He and MM walk right up to her door, pretending to be from the internet company there to do some maintenance. Popclaw invites them in. Huey quickly hacks her Wi-Fi network, linking all her home devices to the surveillance gear Butcher and Frenchie have in the car. Now they can watch Popclaw's every move. Their mission a success, Huey and MM leave. But as they head out, they run into A-Train coming in. Huey freezes in shock and anger when he sees him, but A-Train doesn't even recognize Huey. That makes Huey furious. But he keeps it together, leaves with MM, and goes back to the surveillance vehicle. Then they watch Popclaw and A-Train. They see A-Train telling her he's got a big race tomorrow against another speedster named Shockwave. A-Train is worried that if Shockwave beats him, he'll be kicked off the Seven. So he's asking Popclaw for a dose of Compound 5 so he can power up and move faster. Popclaw refuses at first because the last time he took Compound 5, he lost control and killed Robin. But A-Train keeps nagging, and she finally gives in. Butcher and the others see all of this on the screens. That's when Huey finds out A-Train was under the influence of Compound 5, essentially a superhero steroid, when he killed Robin. Butcher explains they need to get a sample of that drug. They decide to go to A-Train's race tomorrow to steal the Compound 5. Everyone agrees. Meanwhile, Homelander visits Madeline, complaining he doesn't want to attend A-Train's race. But Madeline insists because Homelander needs to make a public appearance to talk about joining the military. Even though a senator was forced to agree, Congress is still refusing, and she reminds him that Mr. Edgar, the owner of Voth, wants them there. He reluctantly agrees, annoyed. Later, Homelander and Maeve team up for another mission. A guy shooting randomly at the police. They head to the scene and manage to stop him, but Homelander is in a rage over Madeline's demands. He kills the shooter in a gruesome way, which Maeve didn't want. It's clear Homelander is unhinged and seems to enjoy the violence. The next day, Homelander and Maeve show up at A-Train's race. They're not alone. Starlight is also there. Soon enough, Butcher and his crew arrive at the race as well. They split up. Butcher and MM head to the stands to keep an eye on everything. Frenchie sneaks into the locker room to find A-Train's stash of Compound 5. Meanwhile, Huey stands by the locker room door to keep anyone else from going inside. While this is going on, Starlight is getting mocked by some people in the crowd over her new costume, one she never wanted to wear, but Madeline insisted. Fed up, she leaves the race and goes to the locker room. Huey sees her and realizes this is the same girl he met a few days ago. He's happy to see her, so he pulls her aside, away from where Frenchie is searching. They talk for a bit, clearly hitting it off, and Starlight gives him her number. Meanwhile, Frenchie is still tearing the locker room apart but can't find any Compound 5. Just then, the race finishes and A-Train wins. Everyone leaves the stadium, so Butcher's team heads back to Popclaw's place. There, MM notices Popclaw is upset because A-Train doesn't publicly acknowledge her. She feels unappreciated, so she injects herself with a dose of Compound V. Because of that shot, she ends up super aggressive. Her landlord shows up, demanding rent. In a rage, Popclaw kills him effortlessly, using these weird bone claws that pop out of her arms once the compound thief kicks in. Butcher and the others watch in horror, realizing just how dangerous compound thief can be. Still, Butcher sees a chance here. He and Frenchie barge into Popclaw's place, telling her they can help cover up the killing in exchange for everything she knows about Compound 5. Popclaw panics, but agrees to cooperate. Meanwhile, Homelander and the Deep bring Madeline a small chest in 4. The Deep found at the bottom of the sea. It's the remains of Translucent, along with a note that reads, "You're next." Homelander sarcastically tells Madeline that someone has declared war on them, and the coming days won't be easy. The next day, Madeline meets with 2 of her executives to discuss how to address Translucent's death. They decide not to announce that he was killed because it would make them look vulnerable and jeopardize their hopes of joining the military. Then Madeline gets a call telling her there's a plane hijacked in mid-flight and its location is known. She sees this as a golden opportunity, so she summons Homelander and Maeve, telling them about the hijacked plane and asking them to save it before the US Army can. That way, the public will respect them and demand they join the national defense. Homelander and Maeve agree and head to the plane. As soon as they board it, they find 3 hijackers and take them out. But one more hijacker is in the cockpit. He's already killed one of the pilots. Maeve tries to stop him but fails. Homelander then uses his laser vision to kill the guy. The problem is Homelander's lasers also wreck vital parts of the plane, so it starts going down. In that moment, Homelander's true colors show even more. He decides to abandon the passengers and get out of there. Maeve is horrified, begging him to at least save a few people, especially the kids, but Homelander refuses. He can't save part of the passengers and leave the rest because that would make him look weak, and he genuinely can't hold up the plane. In the end, he drags Maeve away. The plane crashes with over 123 people on board, all of them dying. Remember, this is Flight 37 because that'll matter later on. Afterward, reporters and cameras arrive at the crash site. Homelander is there and doubles down on his lies. He tells the media they got there 3 minutes too late, blaming the US military for not warning them sooner. If they had been informed, they could have rescued everyone. Naturally, Homelander puts on the tears for the cameras, and the crowd eats it up, chanting for the 7 to join the military. Away from Homelander, we see Butcher paying Susan another visit at the CIA. He shows her photos of A-Train and Popclaw with Compound 5, explaining it's a special drug that grants or boosts superpowers. He asks her to reveal the truth, that these heroes aren't born superior, but are just regular people juiced up on Compound 5. Butcher insists they can't be allowed into the armed forces because they might destroy the world. Susan agrees, but says she needs an actual sample of Compound 5 to prove it. Butcher accepts the mission and leaves. He calls Popclaw, but she says she has no idea where A-Train actually gets his supply of Compound 5. She only knows he picks it up, then sometimes drops some of it off at a well-known noodle shop. She has no clue why. Butcher, frustrated, ends the call. Meanwhile, Frenchie, Huey, and MM stake out that noodle shop Popclaw mentioned. Oddly enough, they see an armed guy leaving the shop with a bowl of noodles. They get suspicious and follow him to a secret spot hidden inside a little store. They sneak in and discover he's meeting 2 associates, all heavily armed, clearly up to something. They poke around and find a young Asian woman locked in a cage, like a prisoner. Frenchie, feeling sorry for her, breaks her out, and chaos erupts. It turns out this girl is incredibly powerful. In seconds, she kills 2 of the armed men. The third panics at the sight of her and shoots himself. The girl escapes, and Frenchie, MM, and Huey are left totally confused. They call Butcher, who arrives shortly after. He notices a syringe with traces of Compound 5, realizing A-Train must be bringing it to this group so they can inject the girl with it for some reason. Butcher says they have to find her to figure out what's going on. Everyone agrees. Right then, Huey gets a text from Starlight asking to meet up. He wants to see her because he's really into her, but before he goes, Butcher hands him a device to hack Starlight's phone, saying she might be useful to them. Huey doesn't like the idea, but goes along with it. He meets Starlight, discreetly hacks her phone, and ends up having a great time with her. Meanwhile, Butcher and the others brainstorm. They figure the girl must be heading for the subway to get out of town. They rush to the subway station and split up to search. Frenchie is the one who finds her. He's carrying a gas bomb to knock her out, but he decides to talk to her instead, sympathizing with her. The girl attacks Frenchie and runs off. Frenchie goes back to Butcher and MM, and they keep looking. Around that time, A-Train appears, grabs the girl, and slams her head against the wall repeatedly, trying to kill her. Luckily, Butcher's group spots him. Frenchie shouts for everyone nearby to come see A-Train, startling A-Train into leaving the girl. She escapes with ease, but Butcher and his group chase her. Frenchie attempts to speak kindly again, but she attacks him once more. Finally, Butcher uses the gas bomb on her, knocking both her and Frenchie out. That's how they finally manage to capture her. The next day, we see A-Train heading to Cuba to meet Popclaw. She's hiding out there on his orders once he found out that the Asian girl got away. A-Train confronts Popclaw, telling her he's certain she was the one who leaked info about that girl's location, since nobody else knew about it. Popclaw confesses she really did give some people details about his movements. She explains she had been caught on camera committing murder, and the people behind that footage were blackmailing her. A-Train is crushed by the betrayal. Even though he genuinely loves Popclaw, he feels he has no choice but to kill her to protect himself. He then meets Homelander and tells him he got Popclaw to confess that someone forced the info out of her about the Asian girl, and whoever that was must have helped the girl escape. He also says he killed Popclaw, despite loving her, just so she couldn't cause more trouble. Homelander agrees they need to track down whoever Popclaw told, as well as find the girl. Meanwhile, Frenchie is holed up somewhere with the Asian girl, trying to interrogate her. She says nothing, so we leave them for now and switch over to Butcher. At this point, Butcher is with Huey and MM at some event. It's a big gathering thrown by a superhero called Ezekiel, whose special ability is stretching his body. Our crew is there because they've discovered that Ezekiel is personally transporting Compound 5 through his pharmaceutical ties, and they want to figure out where it's going and who's involved. Starlight happens to be at the same event. It's more or less a religious festival. Huey goes over to Starlight, chats with her, and asks if she can set up a meeting for him with Ezekiel. He lies, saying he's just a big fan and wants to talk to him. Starlight explains that she, Ezekiel, and Homelander are hosting a special baptism ceremony at the festival, and she offers to sneak Huey into it. He's thrilled and thanks her. Speaking of Homelander, a little while later he shows up at Ezekiel's ceremony. Homelander and Ezekiel start baptizing people, including Huey, though Homelander clearly isn't too comfortable around him. Eventually, Homelander leaves, and Huey is left alone with Ezekiel. Huey seizes the moment to corner Ezekiel, telling him he's got video proof of him doing some very questionable things in that superhero casino. Ezekiel freaks out and nearly kills Huey, but Huey says his friend has a copy of the footage. If anything happens to him, that video will go public. Ezekiel backs off, and Huey demands to know where he's been sending the Compound V. Ezekiel admits it's going to a certain children's hospital. Huey passes this info to MM, who's excited. They can now go there with Butcher to find actual proof of the Compound Vi. At that moment, Butcher has already left the event. He goes to meet a woman named Rachel, who's Rebecca's sister, Rebecca being Butcher's wife. We learn Rebecca disappeared 8 years ago, and nobody knows what happened to her. Butcher gets into an argument with Rachel for making an empty grave for Rebecca as if she were dead. He tells her Rebecca might still be alive, and she had no right to bury her before knowing the truth. Then Butcher leaves, furious, and goes to smash the headstone of that empty grave. Afterward, Butcher and MM head to the children's hospital. They sneak into the nursery and discover loads of babies in incubators, each hooked up to an IV of Compound V. Butcher realizes these kids are essentially being engineered to become future superheroes for Vought. Butcher takes a sample of V and tries to leave, but hospital security shows up and opens fire on him and MM. Butcher cleverly snatches one of the superpowered babies and uses its laser eye ability on the guards, wiping them out so he and MM can escape unscathed. Meanwhile, A-Train manages to get his hands on the security footage from Popclaw's apartment. That's a big problem because he sees Popclaw killing her landlord and then Frenchie and Butcher walking in right afterward. Butcher's face isn't visible in the footage, but Frenchie's is. So A-Train teams up with Black Noir to hunt Frenchie down. A little while later, Frenchie gets a phone call from a friend warning him that A-Train and Black Noir are looking for him and he needs to flee immediately. Frenchie decides to run, but before he does, he frees the Asian girl, letting her escape before A-Train and Black Noir arrive to kill her. Later, Frenchie is rushing through the street on his own, and suddenly Black Noir appears and almost kills him. But the Asian girl comes back out of nowhere, starting a brutal fight with Black Noir. Unfortunately, Black Noir overpowers her, leaving her for dead and then taking off. Frenchie rushes over, devastated and in tears because he'd become attached to her. To his shock, she isn't actually dead. Her body heals completely thanks to her powers, and Frenchie is overjoyed. Meanwhile, Homelander shows up at a big event connected to Ezekiel's festival. He throws everything off script, ignoring what Madeline told him to say. He riles up the crowd, pushing them to demand that he and the Seven officially join the military. Madeline is watching and furious that he's gone off message. Then Starlight takes the stage. She's fed up with everything that's happened to her since becoming a hero, so she speaks candidly to the crowd, revealing the ugly truth. She says superheroes aren't who they appear to be, that they can be downright awful. She even alludes to the Deep's assault on her, without naming him, just saying it was one of the Seven. She admits superheroes aren't the right people to guide anyone spiritually, baptize them, or preach about God. In short, she blows up the whole event, then walks off, done with the charade. Huey catches up to her and tells her he's proud of her honesty and believes every word she said. She's touched, and we see them growing closer and closer. 2 weeks pass after all of that, and we see Huey sitting with Starlight in a cafe. The two have been hanging out a lot. Later, Huey heads over to the safe house where Butcher, Frenchie, and the Asian girl are also lying low. There, gives everyone an update on what he's discovered. They now know that Vought manufactures Compound 5, then covertly transfers it to the hospitals owned by Ezekiel. The children there are injected with it, so they'll grow up to be superheroes. Says he's traced the program back to the 1970s, meaning all present-day heroes have been created in one way or another by Vought. None of them were simply born with powers. But what's especially puzzling is that every hero has paperwork tying them to these experiments, except Homelander. There's no record on him. Meanwhile, Butcher asks Huey if he's seen Starlight, because apparently she's been off the grid for a week, even from Vought. Huey denies any recent contact. Butcher is annoyed and suggests Huey come with him for a ride. They go to some empty lot, and Butcher opens up. He tells Huey that his wife, Becca, worked in Vought's marketing department 8 years ago. But one day, Homelander assaulted her. Knowing nobody would believe her story, she sat right here in this lot for 3 hours, then disappeared. Butcher thinks she either killed herself or Homelander killed her. He goes on to say all superheroes are trash. Homelander assaulted his wife, A-Train murdered Robin, so Starlight must be just as bad. He warns Huey to stay away from her. Huey reluctantly agrees, shaken by Butcher's story and finally understanding why he's doing all this. He wants revenge on Homelander and every other costumed hero who ruins lives. In the meantime, visits a man named Mesmer. Mesmer's power is mind reading, but he's been estranged from Vought and the Seven for a while. Greets him and asks him to read his mind. Mesmer does and flips out, asking how he knows about his daughter. Offers to explain and takes Mesmer to a park where Mesmer's daughter is. She's been raised in a foster home, and Mesmer had no idea where she was. Now he's thrilled to see her. Promises Mesmer monthly visits with his child because he knows her foster guardian, as long as Mesmer does them a favor. Mesmer is so eager to see his daughter, he agrees. Later, Mesmer and head over to Mesmer's place. Before long, Frenchie and the Asian girl arrive. We find out the whole idea is for Mesmer to read the girl's mind and figure out who she is, since she hasn't spoken a word. Mesmer tries, but she panics and literally breaks his arm. Calms everyone down, patching up Mesmer while Frenchie soothes the girl. Not long after, Butcher and Huey turn up. Butcher is livid they brought Mesmer into this, but they go ahead and do what they came for. Mesmer reads the girl's thoughts again. This time, he learns her name is Kimiko, and she was forced into an Asian terror group as a child, along with her brother. She was then brought to the US and injected with Compound 5, giving her superhuman abilities against her will. Butcher realizes that Vought is importing people who might be terrorists, injecting them with Compound 5 to create super terrorists. It's the perfect excuse for Homelander and the Seven to be drafted into the military as the only ones who can fight them. Butcher, armed with this knowledge, goes to Susan and gives her all the info plus a sample of Compound 5. He demands something in return, most importantly that Homelander be held accountable. Susan refuses, saying if they even try to prosecute Homelander, he'd probably destroy the whole country. Butcher flips out, ends their arrangement, and storms off. He goes back to Frenchie, Kimiko, and telling them Susan won't cooperate, but they'll keep going anyway, bringing Homelander down on their own. Across town, Homelander is filming a nostalgic PR video in what's supposed to be his childhood home. While filming, he spots a blanket from when he was actually a kid and loses it, shutting down the shoot. He confronts Madeline, who keeps apologizing for letting that blanket appear. Homelander accepts her apology and finishes filming, but later revisits that blanket alone, remembering his past. We see he was actually raised in a secret lab, similar to the one injecting babies with compound fever now, and never had parents. That's why his official backstory is a total lie, and possibly why he's so messed up. That night, Homelander meets up with Mesmer. Mesmer asked to see him, hoping to trade info on Butcher's group in exchange for a job at VOT. Homelander doesn't care about that. He just wants the photos Mesmer took of Huey, Frenchie, MM, and especially Butcher. Mesmer, being a traitor, shows him who's been plotting against him. Homelander becomes enraged when he sees Butcher's face and storms out. Meanwhile, Starlight meets Madeline. Starlight says she'll keep working with them, but under her own conditions. Nobody forces her to do anything anymore, and the Deep must publicly confess what he did and apologize to her. Madeline agrees. She goes to the Deep and tells him to record a video confession about assaulting Starlight. After that, he's to leave the Seven for a while. The Deep is devastated, but he does what he's told, filming the confession and deciding to leave the city until things blow over. Let's slow down a bit and go back 8 years in time to clarify some things. We see a VOT corporate party. Butcher is there with his wife, Rebecca, who is working in the marketing department. While they're standing around, Homelander shows up. He greets them, clearly taken with Rebecca, which Butcher notices and fears. Days later, Rebecca disappears. At some point, Butcher is visited by a CIA agent named Mallory. Yes, the same Mallory that was once his team leader before she supposedly died. She informs Butcher that the last place Rebecca was seen was in Homelander's room. She emerged looking like she'd been assaulted and then vanished. That's when Butcher joined Mallory's campaign against the Supes until her eventual death. That's the whole backstory. Back to the present, Huey sneaks off to meet Starlight against Butcher's orders. Unbeknownst to him, Butcher is watching from outside the hotel. The next day, Starlight attends a meeting with Homelander and the rest of the Seven. Homelander shows them all pictures of Huey and his crew, saying they're responsible for the group's recent troubles. He immediately accuses Starlight of being part of it because he knows she's romantically involved with Huey. Starlight is stunned, tries to defend herself, but Homelander won't listen and is about to kill her on the spot. Maeve intervenes, claiming she believes Starlight had no clue that Huey tricked her from day one. Homelander still isn't convinced, but he spares Starlight for now, letting Maeve escort her out and ends the meeting. He then goes to see Madeline. He tells Madeline that Butcher is Rebecca's husband and is coming for them all. He demands to know where Rebecca went. It turns out Homelander himself had nothing to do with her disappearance. He's clueless as well. Madeline refuses to reveal anything, so Homelander pays a visit to a VOT scientist, the very man who experimented on him when he was little, someone Homelander resents. But he's determined to find out what happened to Rebecca. The scientist explains that 8 years ago, after Homelander assaulted Rebecca, she ended up pregnant, something supposedly impossible for someone like Homelander. This pregnancy was unusual because the baby grew incredibly fast in Rebecca's womb. That's why she went to Madeline for help. Madeline brought her in, but despite all efforts, the delivery failed. Rebecca and the child both died. Homelander is deeply shaken by the story, uncertain what to believe. Meanwhile, Butcher and his crew regroup. Butcher is furious at Huey for still hanging around Starlight, but they get interrupted when Huey's dad calls. Huey picks up, only to find A-Train on the other end, threatening to kill his dad unless Huey shows up immediately. They realize Mesmer must have sold them out, so the Seven know who they all are. Everyone panics and runs to protect their families, except Butcher, who tracks down Mesmer. He beats Mesmer to death in a brutal way. Huey rushes to his house and finds A-Train waiting. A-Train is spiraling from two things. He's been forced off Compound 5 and is suffering withdrawal, and he's still tormented over killing Popclaw. He blames everything on Huey and prepares to kill him, but Huey had a backup plan. Kimiko shows up, breaks A-Train's leg, and helps Huey rescue his dad. Afterward, everyone returns to the safe house where MM has brought his wife and daughter for protection. They all gather, trying to decide what to do next, and ultimately Butcher agrees to work with Susan once more on her terms. He calls Susan, and soon she arrives, taking Huey's father and MM's family to a secure location. In exchange, Butcher hands over that sample of Compound 5. She promises to handle everything, but warns they still can't charge Homelander with anything. He's too dangerous. Then she leaves. Susan goes straight to Madeline, presenting all the evidence she's compiled. The Compound 5 operations, the creation of super terrorists, and so on. She threatens to shut Vought down if Madeline doesn't back off from trying to join the US military. Before Madeline can respond, Susan gets an urgent call and rushes to the CIA war room. There, her team shows her shocking footage. A CIA squad assaulted a terrorist base, wiping everyone out, until a strange-looking man with Captain written on his body appears. He's got superpowers and torches the entire place, killing the CIA operatives before escaping. Susan realizes these new super terrorists are a real threat and that the US Army may indeed need the Seven's help. Huey goes to see Starlight, who wants him to explain himself. Did he really use her just to avenge Robin? Huey, disgusted, leaves Butcher to go free his friends himself. First, Huey tries to get Starlight's help, but she's still upset with him and refuses. Left with no other option, Huey deliberately gets himself arrested so he's locked up in the same place as Frenchie, and Kimiko. He smuggles in a thin wire, which they use to pick the lock and escape their cell. The moment they get out, guards arrive, spraying them with gunfire. But Starlight shows up to help. She decides to save Huey after all, taking out the guards so the group can flee. Suddenly, A-Train appears, still out for blood. He blames Huey for all his misfortunes and is determined to kill him. Starlight fights A-Train in a fierce battle, but he manages to knock her aside and goes for Huey. Right when he's about to finish Huey off, A-Train suffers a sudden heart attack, collapsing on the spot, clearly a result of his Compound 5 addiction. Starlight calls an ambulance for him and tells Huey to take the others and run. In the final scene, Homelander attends a big celebration with Madeline and the rest of the team. Everyone's partying in his honor. Soon, the company's owner, Mr. Edgar, shows up for the first time. He tells Madeline the military has signed a $40 billion contract with the Seven, so he's promoting her to take over his position as he plans to retire. Overjoyed, Madeline thanks him. That night, Madeline returns home to find Butcher waiting for her. He straps explosives to her and forces her to call Homelander. Butcher's plan is to lure Homelander here and kill them both as revenge, knowing Homelander is attached to Madeline. Eventually, Homelander arrives. Shockingly, he doesn't seem to care about Butcher and starts taunting him. Then he confronts Madeline, revealing he knows about all her lies. He spoke again with the Vought scientist and discovered the truth about his son, that Madeline has been hiding the child from him. Without warning, Homelander kills her in cold blood. Seeing everything unravel, Butcher feels he has nothing left. He sets off the bombs, but Homelander rescues Butcher, hauling him away from the explosion. A while later, Butcher wakes up in front of a random house. He looks up to see Rebecca, his wife, alive and well. She steps out alongside her son, Homelander's son. It turns out Rebecca and the boy have been living in secret. Madeline had lied to Homelander, claiming they both died. She wanted Homelander to stay fixated on his work, but once he learned the truth, he killed her. And that's where the season ends, leaving plenty of questions unanswered. That's why we'll pick up next time with Season 2. That's it, folks. Take care until then. Bye.